So one question related to that is, what did you learn offering these immersions and being part of these design groups in so many different cultures? Because we know you have been in Finland and Sweden and Holland and all over the place. So what did you learn from these very different cultures?
I learned that the Dutch really like to question authority. No, I think like the basic thing that I've learned is complexity is in every place that I've been, complexity it's present and it's persistent, and we all have difficulties with complexity, but we also, in all of the places I've worked, there's also a belief that complexity is one of the greatest assets that we have as well. And that we all have an underlying capability and capacity to work with complexity.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, in all of these different places, you know, there's an enormous amount of creativity when it comes to how people orient in and work with complexity. So I say that's like the primary thing that I've noticed is just the capacity to deal with complexity is incredibly high everywhere. And there's also at the same time tendencies to flatten, ignore, push away, hold off complexity. So it's like, it's this strange thing because like so much of our approaches to complexity seem to try and like engineer it away, even though all of these places that I've spent time, individuals and communities have a tremendous capacity to work with complexity and hold complexity. And so it's this strange paradox that like, despite our capability with it, we still try and like ignore, diminish, and hold it off.
Yeah, is there a liberating structure unexplored area you want to dig deeper?
An unexplored area?
Yeah.
With a structure or with a domain, do you mean?
An area that you still want to explore more, to dig deeper?
With liberating structures?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's, I mean, an infinite variety of places. I mean, at a personal level, I've done quite a bit, I've done some kind of work in kind of classroom or educational settings.
Mm-hmm.
And I, at a personal level, at some point would like to spend more or additional time in those settings. And part of what I love about it is the daily demand to be inventive and be creative. Like partnering with students in their own learning on a daily basis requires you to also be imaginative and inventive in every moment around how you participate in that and hold a structure that supports that. And so it's like this double kind of work that happens that I find completely overwhelming and completely enlivening at the same time. The other domains or areas, I think Anna, who's a really close colleague and friend and partner of mine, we talk a lot about or exploring a lot how kind of liberating structures can be used in like imaginative play, I guess. So we're talking with some people that run LARPs, which are live action role-playing games, on how to use liberating structures in both the design and setup of a LARP, in which you engage the people who will be playing the game, you know, in creating their character or collaboratively setting up the story. And then in the actual playing of the game, figuring out how do you bring in a structure in the setting that you've created for yourselves. And then coming out of the game, how do you use liberating structures to talk to each other about what the experience was like? How do you debrief it? And so that's an example of a place where I'm really interested. I'm also really interested in exploring how things like liberating structures can support or contribute to kind of collaborative artistic practices. Like how do the structures support collective art making potentially, or collective expression that's not just about business ends, but are about artistic ends maybe. So that's just an area that I'm interested in. I'd also always be interested in like how liberating structures would work in the context of outdoor education. Like what would it be like to have things like liberating structures in an outward bound course, which I know already has its own set of practices, which are already awesome. And how could you bring those things together as well?
Yeah, like if you I just had an idea, like if you're in a field and you have to make a decision as a group, and so then you can have critical uncertainties.
Yeah, totally.
And to, like to map everything that can be,
risk management.
Risk management.
Yeah, definitely doing triz, like do triz with like a group of young people who are about to go for a canoe trip or.
Yeah, so many. Yeah, and some troikas around, like some rounds and
and definitely will speed up the process.
Which can be like 5 days would be one. And no, just kidding.
But still exploring this educational area. Can you share, Fisher, that story about the semester you led in I think it was in a college, right?
Yeah. So the college that I went to as an undergraduate, it's called Bates College. It's in Maine. And they started a program called Purposeful Work. And as part of that Purposeful Work program, they invited alumni practitioners to come back. And we have a kind of strange academic calendar. So we do 4 classes in the fall, 4 classes in the winter, and then 1 class in the springtime. And it's usually a pretty intensive course. So for instance, when I went and taught, I had 12 students for like 4 or 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. So it was a big, intense time. So we had 5 weeks, and it was sort of focused on like peer health situations on campus. Like how do students, how do peers on campus, how are they best positioned to help with complex health issues that might emerge from social isolation to, what else? Like alcohol and substance use to sexual assault to how are peers best positioned to intervene or support each other in that range of complex health situations that students sometimes find themselves in. And it was just like, looking back, I had the most magical time with those groups of students. So one of the most fun things that we did was the first 4 days of class. We just learned liberating structures, and because we had the luxury of time and duration, the choices we made were very different. So like the first day of class, we did impromptu networking 4 times in a row. And so I led the first one. Then we talked about it. Then we had a student run the second one, a student run the third one, and a student run the fourth one. So by the very first moments of class starting, they were already beginning to take responsibility for facilitating. And then we did, I think, what, so what, now what, and 1, 2, 4, all. And we did each one like 3 or 4 times in a row. And then their homework between day 1 and day 2 was to pick one of the 3 structures we did and figure out a way to use it with your peers. You could do it at dinner. You could do it in the dorm. You could that was your homework. And then the second class started with just a fishbowl. Like, what happened last night? What was the good, the bad, and the ugly of trying to do this thing with your peers? It just progressed over time to really turning into, for me, this experience where we were fully and mutually shaping what the experience was like. And what we thought were the objectives or the goals of the class quickly became kind of irrelevant or at least secondary. to the broader cottywomple of being together for that duration of time. And so it was just totally fun. And I got a chance to bring Keith and Henry and Anna into the class, and they got to be there for different parts of it. And that was really a pretty nice experience for me. And so, so it was a very fun, memorable experience. So
should be part of the curriculum.
It would be nice if it stuck as part of the longer term curriculum there.